Okay, so let's move from the old economy, the Malthusian economy, to the modern economy and how that works in general, generally speaking. Okay, so now we're in this area with constant economic growth where we have sustained innovation. And so we move from a zero sum game to not a zero sum game, to a growing pie, to where wealth is not taken but created. So I could be rich, and that doesn't mean I took that money from somebody else. And the most important resource goes from being land to skills, to essentially what a person can do, and then therefore their time, what they do with that time. And so here's an example that I think will help you see this. And this is basically how the modern economy works, where we can get richer and that wealth is not taken, but rather it is created. Okay, so imagine a world where there's only 10 of us and we're just a bunch of farmers. And so it takes us all year long just to grow enough food to feed ourselves. So I can only feed one person. I grow my food and it's just enough for myself. So all 10 of us are farmers. And this is basically the world, the Malthusian world, where 95% or 90% of the population has to be farmers because agriculture is just not that productive. It's just hard to get a lot of food from the ground. So we're all farmers. Let's say one person figures out how to become more productive, fertilizer, I don't know, rotating the crops, um, plowing. That person figures out, okay, I can grow enough food for 10 people. I work all year and I get enough food for 10 people. So what that means, sorry, something just fell over. So what that means is now, okay, this one person grows enough food for all of us. The 9 of us that are left over could do something else. We don't have to be farmers anymore. We can go and do something else. So let's say we become carpenters. And so we all build the houses. The 9 of us build the houses. The one person's growing the food. The other 9 of us are building the houses for everybody. Then let's say one person innovates again, comes up with tools that makes it so that person can build all the houses. The work that 9 people did can now be done by one person because they've innovated in terms of tools, construction, technology. So now, or as a result, we got one farmer, one person doing the food for everybody, one person doing the houses for everybody because they've invented this. We got the same amount of houses, the same amount of food. It's just that because we're so much more productive because of innovation, that one person can do the work that was done by 9 people in the case of the carpenter before. So now we got 8 people who just don't have things to do. We got food for them. We got houses for them. What do they do? Let's say they become weavers. They start making clothing. And all right, let's say they can only make clothing for these 8 people can make it for 10 people. But then someone invents a sewing machine. Now that person can make the clothes for everybody. So now we have one person doing the farming, one person doing the houses, one person doing the clothing, and now we got 7 people who can do other stuff. They could become writer, whatever. They can become a philosopher. They can go into whatever other new field. And so if you look at this, we never got poorer. This 10-person society never got poorer. Started out with the same amount of food that food carried through. We just added houses, we added clothing, and then we added whatever else we needed to add. And that's basically how the modern economy works. Once you have innovation, once you have sustained innovation where people are coming up with better ways to do things, it's not like wealth is taken. Well, now it's like we used to spend all year long making chairs, but now one factory can make the chairs for everybody. And so these other people can go out and do something else, come up with some other invention or something to do. That productivity increases means that wealth just keeps growing and growing. And so it's not a zero sum game. Most wealth is created now, it's not extracted. Now, there is some wealth that is extracted. We could talk about that later, but most wealth is created. You see somebody who's wealthy, it's because they created something or invented something or were part of some innovative process that increased productivity. And so the 2 key things here are trade. If I come up with this new chair making technology, I need to be able to trade those chairs, and innovation. So those are kind of like our 2 processes that we need to pay attention to. Is there enough trade, and is there enough innovation coming up with the new inventions? we want to think about a society, each country or whatever has a bunch of firms and a bunch of institutions that kind of both create the human talent, that kind of give people the skills, but also organize them together. And so your success at a country is going to be like, okay, how skilled is your populace? And how well do my firms and institutions organize? How well does my society allow people to reach their full potential? And so, if I have good firms, good institutions that really allow people to flourish, like you can imagine a good firm where, all right, I'm in this firm, I'm rewarded for doing something innovative. I'm exposed to people that are really smart. I'm learning from them. That's going to maximize my skills. If I'm at a bad firm where I'm not really rewarded, there's lots of infighting, there's lots of politics going on. Um, I'm not going to be very productive, and I'm not really going to reach my full potential. Or think about the university. If I'm at a university that doesn't reward teaching, what do I care? I mean, I guess I could do it for altruistic reasons, but if I'm at a university that really doesn't care about teaching, my teaching is going to suffer. Or if I'm at a university that doesn't reward research, I'm not going to be doing much research. Or contrast that with a university where there's lots of good teachers. I'm learning from them. I'm asking them, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? I'm getting better. Or I'm lots of good researchers where I'm asking this person or being exposed to great research, talking to people at lunchtime, I'm talking to people in the hallways, and it's making me think and it's making me learn new skills, and I'm getting better and better. All right. So you could think about a countries in terms of, do they get the maximum out of their population in terms of their population allows them to reach the full potential? And you see this, people know this. People move to the countries where they can realize their full potential. They say, I can't do it here. For whatever reason, this country is not going to let me reach my full potential. I'm going to go to that country over there, and I'm going to really be able to maximize what I can do. You can look through history too. You could think about Einstein. Einstein comes to the U.S., comes to our university system, does all this innovative stuff. It would be a tragedy if he was stuck as like a medieval peasant, where he just has to work the land all day. Taylor Swift, another example. Taylor Swift is born in Maoist China. She's born in like 1950 in China. Well, she's probably going to die in the Great Famine. But if she makes it through the Great Famine, she's just a peasant. She's just farming all day, and she doesn't become the great songstress that she becomes. And we can see this in the data. All right. So we can see this is the number of people living in not extreme poverty. That's grown over time. This is essentially wealthy people because the size of the pie has grown. Our productivity has grown. Our agricultural sectors become super productive. Farmer back in the 1800s could only feed 5 people. Now they can feed 150 people. Clothing production, super productive. And so we've grown the pie. Back here, we just got land. Land's our only resource. And so everyone's poor. Everyone's essentially living hand to mouth. As we get over here, the pie has grown immensely. And so we have actually less people living in poverty than we did before. See this in the life expectancies. The life expectancy is going up everywhere as people have access to better food and also the innovations. Because we have a stable food source, people can now innovate in medicine. People can go into medicine and innovate and come up with better ways to extend life. And now there is a reward to skills. If I'm living back in the peasant times where, look, I'm just going to be a peasant, I'm just going to be farming all day long, it doesn't really matter what I know, it doesn't really matter what my skills are, I have no incentive to get skills. And there's no institutions that will create that human capital, those skills. But as we move into a modern economy where there's this innovative process going on all the time, constant innovation, constant invention, well, now there's some reward to learning something. And we can see this in the literate population. Back in 1800, about 15% of the population, a little, maybe 12% is literate. We go to the present, most of the world is illiterate. Huge change. All right. And we also see this in how politics work, where when land is the only important resource, or it's the primary resource, these countries are constantly at war. If we fast forward to the 20th century, World War I, World War II accepted, we generally have less warfare than we did back in these times, where the countries are always trying to take each other's land. Even the wars in the present are much more complicated. They may be about a vital resource, but they're rarely about land. It's rarely, a country trying to expand its territory. Okay, and all of this is a product of we've switched from one ways of doing an extractive zero sum game to a growing pie innovation game. Okay, all right. Moving on.